Welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. My name is Broke Boy Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. Hello to everybody in the chat tonight. Patrick's Astro and stuff. Haven't seen you for a few weeks. Tony, I don't know you. Welcome in. Joe Perry, Aerosmith lead guitarist. Welcome into you. DJ Moonboy, Scrubhead, best show of the week. We appreciate that, man. Welcome into everybody. We got a high energy fun stream tonight because things are pumping. We got BTC back at six figures again, at least for the moment, and by $20 by the looks of it. We have ETH moving up a little wee bit as well. Most importantly, Pulse Chain pumping hardcore over the last day. We've got a couple of tokens that were up 30% at one point today for the last day. Things are looking good in this market. So much bullish news has come out over the last 24 hours, whether it is stuff relating to Donald Trump and the inauguration, the SEC, CPI data coming in good today. Things are looking good. Things are looking bullish right now. We're starting to feel it a little bit. It's been a rough 3 weeks or so, especially in this ecosystem, but really for crypto overall. I mean, we've been in this cool out period and a lot of people have been stressed out. Oh, the bull market's over. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, here we are 5 days from Trump being sworn in and things are starting to feel pretty good. So welcome in everybody. Checks my pulse. Metastang. Welcome into you guys. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Is the Trump takeover really the catalyst? I mean, is that really it? Is the SEC reforming all of these things? Is that the short-term bullishness that we need? And it's looking like it is so far. So we're going to get into so much stuff tonight. I appreciate all you guys. Hit us up in the chat. Ewok, how are you on this bullish Wednesday evening?
Doing fine. The green candles make everybody in a better mood. So for sure doing well. Looking to hopefully we hear from Auntie Carol here soon, but I'm honestly in no rush. I think it's going to be best if we just kind of wait from what we're seeing that's happening now and some of the cases being possibly put on pause or whatever it may be. I'm perfectly fine. So it wouldn't bother me in the least if we don't hear about it until after the 20th. So yeah, things are otherwise looking good. When we go over the charts, I heard something the other day and I never even really pieced it together, how interesting it is, the difference between Bitcoin and altcoins. So remind me to touch on that. But yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, we definitely will. Well, we're going to get into Bitcoin right now. So let's take a look. We got BTC at, like I said, literally right at six figures. We're just over 100K, at least by what I'm looking at the moment here on Coin Paprika. $100,054 for BTC. It's been a bullish day, up about 3% over the last 24 hours. ETH up 6% over the last day. It's at 34.37 right now. And of course, a lot of the altcoins there on the top page are moving to XLM up 13% on a day. Maybe a stellar comeback this bull market. I guess we'll see. But yeah, things are looking good right now. A lot of bullish sentiment today. To tie in with where we are with Bitcoin and the overall market, we did have CPI data, that's core inflation data in the U.S. come out. Most of the numbers either equated what people expected or were better than what people expected. So we got bullish action big time immediately right off the news today. That was pretty much first thing this morning. Market reacting over that. Of course, once again, Trump inauguration on Monday, we've been in this chill out zone, but it seems like the more news that we're hearing about all the executive orders that he plans on doing day one, maybe the most bullish news of the day, which we will talk about in more detail, what he has said, what the SEC could look like under Paul Atkins right away, and possibly the freezing of certain cases right now, which, I mean, we're going to get into that. Lots of bullish news today, but in terms of the pricey walk, how do you feel about this? We're 2 weeks into January now, 2 weeks into 2025, the big final year, hopefully, of this, well, maybe even 2026, who knows, but the big liftoff point of this bull market. How do you feel about where prices are right now, and how's Bitcoin and ETH both looking to you here?
Both looking very bullish. I pulled out to the weekly time frame here, and obviously as anything happens, you always want to zoom out too, just to kind of get a better look and feel of the overall picture. We'll take it down to the daily though, just to kind of get a little bit of a closer look. I'm seeing actually 100,200 on Coinbase's price anyway, so they are varying just a little bit, which means there's a lot of volatility. You know, this is the opportunity for people to do some arbitraging between exchanges and take those little bits and pieces when they can. But what I was saying earlier, I'm going to zoom back out to the weekly chart because I never realized this, that Bitcoin and altcoins are completely opposite. And this is going to be crazy for me to say. And as long as I've been in crypto, I didn't piece this together. But um, so Bitcoin actually goes up for 3 years and down for
Mhm.
one, whereas altcoins go down for 3 years and make a crazy run for one. So they're completely opposite. And I was like, I heard that and I was like, what? Really? And I
Mhm.
look at it, and I never realized that that time frame was that close to being, obviously from December to it was November, whatever was the low. Um, but you could consider that anywhere in the first one after 2018 top or the 2017 basically Christmas top. Um, yeah, so it was just kind of interesting to see how polar opposite they really are. However, the gains now that you're getting in Bitcoin are that much still lower than the altcoin gains, which
Mm.
just tells you how degenerative we are, that we have to go for the thing that falls for 3 years and only up for one, instead of taking the smart money and investing and being up for 3 years and then down for only one. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, you know what's funny? If you wanted to get even more granular with that, I mean, yeah, as an altcoin index, what you're saying is probably generally true. But if you wanted to get even more specific, I mean, with a lot of the alts, it's more like 2 to 3 months that they're up. You know what I
True,
mean? Like, I
true,
mean, yeah, if you were on a broad scale, what you're saying is pretty much correct. But yeah, I mean, if
true.
you wanted to get even more specific, it's maybe even more degen looking than that. And I think it's a good point that you bring up, and we're nowhere near this point. But
No,
as this year goes on, that's why I think it's a big thing that, obviously we understand people wanting to DCA out of the market into stables at first, but I think that's why, like, the importance of DCAing back into Bitcoin. Like, for example, I know it's hindsight's 2020 and it's easy to say this in retrospect, but looking at 2022, November of 2022, when the FTX stuff was happening, Bitcoin gets to 17, 16, 15K. It really felt like the bottom, and then it proved to be, at least when
mhm,
we were recovering out of that 15K mark. That's just when, like, DCAing bullets into Bitcoin at that time, you really can't go wrong, and
right,
why not do that? It's the bottom of the bear market. And then you got a whole other year after that of just kind of the 2023 sideways price action to maybe DCA out of your Bitcoin holdings as it slowly rises up into the alts that you're like, okay, this is what I think is going to fly. They're making good recoveries on their charts. I'm going to get into this stuff now. But here we are, January 2025. Pulse Chain, for example, has been out for a year and a half. If you were somebody, now this wouldn't be optimal, but if you were somebody that hasn't even gotten into this ecosystem yet, you still could put in a decent sized bag and make hay right now. I mean, it hasn't gotten away from us yet. I mean, certainly you totally missed the lows, especially on Pulse X. I mean, it's way, way up. But even right now, there's still a little bit of time, but
yeah,
not by a lot. But yeah, not really,
no.
time to get into the DCing into BTC. But yeah, your point stands for sure.
Well, for real, like with the BTC, it's way too late. You know, the bottom was 15,000. So obviously we're not going to see anything close to that, even if it does pull back and retrace. You know, it would be in the 70, 80,000 range, maybe. But yeah, you're not going to get anywhere near that. But to your point, yeah, I mean, we're not that far off the bottom for some of these prices. For Pulse Chain especially, I mean, we're still at half of SAC rate for Pulse,
Mhm.
and a third or maybe yeah, it's about a third for Pulse X. So we are not anywhere near even SAC rate on both of those. So yeah, you still have plenty of time. But to your point, though, with the stable coins, I don't know. I wouldn't want to lose any value, and you're still going to lose. You're still going to lose value with your Bitcoin. Uh, why would you? I'm just not sure why you would go into Bitcoin instead of a stable coin, because you're going to retain as much value as possible when you're in a stable. Is that just in case it's not over? Is that what you're thinking?
I mean, I guess so, but I more so meant like getting into a stable and then DCAing back into Bitcoin, whatever it looks like it's bottoming. That was the main point that I bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
got
do
you.
think there's been data before, though, that like going directly into Bitcoin here and there, like for at least one of the cycles, actually looked like the correct move over stables because of what it did shortly thereafter. But
Right.
yeah, me personally, I mean, like I would be more interested in going to stables just so I know where everything's at and then getting into
Yeah.
Bitcoin later or even Ethereum. I mean, like you might want to wait, be a little bit more careful with Ethereum, obviously, when it gets to the bottom. But yeah, either
Yeah.
one's a pretty safe bet at that point.
Yeah,
So.
and especially with the stable pools that we have that can generate yield, pretty, there's really not a whole lot of risk there, unless the banks were to freeze all the stable coins, which I don't see that happening. That would create some sort of crazy lawsuit that many people would be on board with. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the opportunity that most people should or will take anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to
But
get into like major detail about those mechanisms and stuff like whenever we get towards the end of the bull market. Yeah, because you can earn a
sure.
decent APY just on those stable yields there. But what do you think right now in terms of where BTC is at, and then ETH in comparison to BTC? Because we still have BTC or ETH at like what 0.033 or something. It's still not clear that it's necessarily bottomed against Bitcoin. Obviously, bottomed in USD value. It's going up. But yeah, what do you think about both of these? And has your kind of long term view of where Bitcoin could get this cycle? I saw Trump out there a little bit earlier, basically like calling for 150K BTC like early in his term and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess just what are you seeing with both of these here over the course of this year?
Yeah, I mean, just when I thought that we had bottomed on this ETH Bitcoin ratio,
Mhm.
it turns around and makes another lower low. Now that was
Yeah.
just what 3 days ago. Looks like on the 13th. It looks like so 2 days ago. But it is making a nice run, nice recovery back today. We're at 0.0356, uh, eclipsing some of this range that we had been chopping around in for quite a while. I do think what we're seeing right now is a front running for the inauguration. I think people are trying to get ahead of it, and that's basically what it is. We'll see what happens whenever he does get into office and these other players get instilled into their positions and things like that. How bullish this does become. But I think what we're seeing right now is totally the front running of
Mhm.
of that. I think people are just trying to get ahead of it. Interest rates, as you said, came back pretty good today with the
Inflation. Yeah,
or
inflation.
inflate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rates came back better than expected, I think. So,
Yeah.
um, but needless to say, in the pulse chain ecosystem, we are still in a really good position. Um, and DJ Moonboy said it. I think these prices are still fantastic. So, um, yeah, everything is looking very healthy. I think we are out of the woods for the most part. I hate saying that, but there's always the chance for little pullbacks here and there, but they are healthy. So any buying opportunity now is definitely a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're lining up really well. I mean, it could be people front running the Trump stuff, but also, like you said, good news has come out plenty today, really. So
Yeah.
that is all cool. We'll see if we do see like a slight sell off after he's sworn in, but yeah, things are definitely picking up. So good things are looking good for Bitcoin and ETH. Got to have ETH make a turnaround here soon, hopefully. So, in terms of the Pulse chain ecosystem, so we have had major pumpage. Pulse is up 10% over the last day. It was 20 some earlier. Obviously, as time elapses, it goes down. But we got Pulse up at 4 zeros and a 545. It's pulling back just a little bit right now. Pulse X 4 zeros and a 375. Incentive is over $2 again, 213. Hex at 1.6 cents, and eHex at 00 0.33 essentially. So it's up 20% on the day. So EHEX actually of all of them is up the most right now, but PulseX, Incentive, both were making a killing. Of course, they're usually the ones that run the hardest whenever things start to come back. That PulseX to Pulse ratio started to tighten the gap again. So yeah, things are moving here. And, it's funny because when I was getting the notes together for this show before the pumpage over the last day, it was mainly like, okay, we're still continuing to consolidate and luckily hold this support level after the bullshit like Interpol FUD on whatever Christmas Eve, a couple days before Christmas. And now here we are breaking out of that and getting back to the next kind of resistance point, which is I think probably up towards about like 4 zeros and a 6 or something, if I remember. But we held that level. That's what was really important, that 4 zeros 4.2 or whatever it was, kind of held that level and are bouncing back up right now and hopefully putting that in the rearview mirror. I mean, it's possible we could bounce off it again, but this has been a strong move. And with all the news coming out today that may or may not affect Richard Hart's case with the corrupt SEC, it's hard to imagine, going further down than anywhere that we've been right now. So,
Yeah.
kind of first, just looking at the chart and pulse and everything, Ewok, what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely. Let's break this down a little bit. I think, yeah, we are slowly stair stepping. I mean, there are little pullbacks. I'm on the 4-hour chart right now. It takes a couple green candles, and you get a couple red ones, and then several. You are still seeing little amounts of sell off, but very ever so slightly. So I feel like the sellers are definitely becoming exhausted. And as you mentioned, this was the Interpol FUD, basically, even though we knew about it back in September, October, whenever it was. And we've regained half of that back. So it's funny how so quickly people just seem to forget, not care, realize that it's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't change any of this as far as working product and the possibilities. So yeah, this is looking really good. Let's look at it on the. I'm curious on the monthly, let's do the weekly chart here. Yeah, we are stair stepping. We are making higher lows, as it bottomed back here. I guess it was in September. There was this low in November, and then this recent wick was still a little bit higher than that other one that was in October, November there. So as long as we continue to not break that level, we're looking really good.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really, really good move up. And again, I think it's some news that's partially the catalyst. But I mean, if you want to look at the Pulse X chart, maybe real quick too. I mean, it's just been pumping really hard over the last day. And again, I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to reach 1-to-1 parity with Pulse at this point. I mean, I remember Axis being on this channel over the course of the last year and speculating that, and me thinking like being skeptical, but we have seen not only that move continue to happen, but RH specifically basically tweeting and showing it happening. I mean, talking about it a lot. We talked about on his Christmas audio that he recorded. He talked about Pulse X and its ratio against Pulse. I mean, like, I think it's definitely happening at some point. I don't know where it goes after that. We've talked a lot on this show about being careful with like the liquidity pool, obviously with Pulse and Pulse X, if you're providing and figuring out where your impermanent loss may be and everything, and trying to double down and going back and buying Pulse X if you are losing any of it for Pulse. But I mean, you look at that chart, it's insane. That's the Pulse X to Pulse. Maybe we can even look at Pulse X to USD also. But yeah, I mean, it just continues.
Right. I mean, this is just a pretty straight trajectory. I was just agreeing with your point, how this trend line is just done nothing since January of last year.
Yeah.
It has followed suit. So I do agree with that. But yes, we will look at the USD price. And, you're going to see very similar to what Pulse is doing. They're all moving, relative to each other, essentially. But, this is a very similar situation where there are higher lows each dip. So this one is more exaggerated than Pulse, This one was considerable amount different for this higher low. So this one's
Yeah.
looking even more bullish than Pulse Chain.
Yeah. Yeah. It just continues to run. And like I said, it's been the thing that I have DCA'd harder into Pulse X than anything for a few months now, honestly. Just reading the tea leaves, it's kind of like, it reminds me of the early days with Hex, and some of the things that Richard Hart would say that, you guys at the time would heed that warning or read between the lines. I don't think you have to read very hard between the lines with what he's kind of been intimating about Pulse X. I mean, it's clearly the thing he seems to be. Obviously, Hex is like his original baby and stuff. He just seems really bullish on Pulse X right now.
Well, he loves that buy and burn. I mean, he is,
Mhm.
which it's a great mechanism for anything that can, deflate a coin basically
Mhm.
over time, and it makes it more and more rare. It's got to be, it's got to be good tokenomics. So yeah, it's definitely, where are we with percentage? Let's take a look here.
Almost 6, I think now. I think it's
1.2 trillion. Yeah,
mhm.
6%. It's 5.99% burn.
Yep.
So crazy. But yeah, no, the charts are looking good. We are extremely healthy here. I should have pulled this one so I could click through them, but incentives even having a nice little run today.
Yep.
Relatively speaking, we got some really nice candles going here. Up 40% in the last 2 days.
Yep.
Pretty decent.
Yeah. Not long ago, it was about $1.30 or so I saw, and we're up almost a
Yeah.
whole dollar from there. So
Yep.
yeah, bullish action across the board in the ecosystem. Really good to see. And you can see, I mean, I posted this on Twitter today, and it's people should heed this warning. And then we can look at Hex too. Like when price action's not good and you're upset about it and you're complaining about it and you choose to like sit on your hands or just bitch about it. And if you don't have, dry powder to DCA, that's one thing. And it takes fortitude just to sit there when prices are down. It's very, very tough. And I agree with that. But if you've had bullets to DCA when you thought you believed in this ecosystem, but you don't suddenly when prices go down. This is what happens in crypto. Things move at a breakneck speed. And this is only, we're early in 2025, So, I mean, things like this can happen 10 times more leveraged bullishness than this, where out of nowhere you're caught totally off guard and things just start pumping like this,
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and hope Hex is looking pretty good too. I think the biggest gainer was probably eHex, but
Mhm.
also the lowest liquidity, the easiest one to pump. And I can't believe somebody sold, was it $20 million of Hex the other day, or Pulse or something like that. I saw Corey Geary talking about it, that somebody just dumped like
It
one
was
massive.
Hex. Yeah.
Was it Hex? I thought it was.
Mhm.
And I don't know if
It
it was.
wasn't 20 million in a go. Well, wait a minute. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think it was.
He put in like 65K at the adoption amplifier and had made over 20 million overall. I think I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me if the chat if they saw, but I think it was him. He's basically cashed out 20 million over time. I don't think it was 20 million like just the other day. I could be
Oh,
wrong on that. But yeah,
okay.
that's essentially, but he was a huge holder, and I think that was only one of his wallets that he's out now. I think he may have another one actually, but yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, people, I don't understand why anybody that, not all whales are smart, I guess. This is totally the wrong time to do something like that, I think, but
Yeah.
to each his own. I can't be, I have no idea what people need money for or why they're selling or buying. So to each their own, but I just feel like there's other ways to do it. Take a loan out on it at this point, especially if it goes up, you still have that loan that's open that you could easily pay back or even take more. So
Well, that's the other thing is he obviously paid tremendous slippage too. I mean, it
I'm
was just
sure.
like, yeah. So there must have been some kind of what they perceived as a dire, financial situation that they needed to take care of. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even
But
with a loan, you can get the USD value immediately. You're only taking 10%, a 10% haircut,
right.
and you're padding yourself in case it does go up from there. If it never goes down, then your collateral ratio goes up. You can continue to borrow against it until it turns, back the other way. So
Mhm.
I think it's a great insurance policy for taking some profits, especially if you're not sure that things have topped out. Um, I can't see why you wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. But yeah, on the timing, I agree 100%. I mean, we're right here at the beginning of the launch pad, basically. So, can't know what anybody else is doing, but it doesn't seem like the right time to be selling right now. So yeah, that's where we are with Pulse Chain. If you guys are enjoying the stream, do us a favor. There's more of you watching than have liked so far. Smash the like. We appreciate you guys being here. We have a lot of stuff to get to. Let's look at this. So we got to talk some of this SEC stuff with Trump taking over and things like that. So in terms of the SEC versus Richard Hart case, obviously we are still here. We are January 15th. A lot of people probably would have thought that we'd have had something about the motion to dismiss from Judge Carroll by now. We still don't. I said last week I would be shocked if we didn't have it like by the end of this week, because we're just getting so close. And you figure we're going to get something by the end of January. We only got 2 weeks left. So, we've talked about before, you got to keep in mind that the holidays were in there too. So she probably had some time off and stuff. But all these crypto dominoes are falling all around her at the same time too. You've got SEC and Coinbase. That lawsuit was basically frozen last week, and left to the appellates. And Coinbase is looking pretty good in that one. We've got right now. So this is the huge news that came down today, and maybe this is just speculation, but the Trump's version of the SEC with Paul Atkins taking over for Gary Gensler, and Atkins has been outspoken as wanting to be on the frontier of crypto and stuff like that. Obviously, Trump has been saying pro crypto things all over the place, but that Trump's SEC may also freeze litigation that does not include fraud. Now, you may be asking yourself, like, with the SEC's lawsuit against Richard, they allege fraud, but that's one of those things that you can dispel very, very easily, to see that isn't something that happened. I think Judge Carroll pretty much saw that in the
Mhm.
motion to dismiss hearing. Now, it's in the lawsuit, but anybody can sue anybody for anything and just say whatever in their complaint, which is what the SEC did. They did allege the fraud, but yeah, she wasn't really that into it. Nuclear Herbs actually also today. I'm just kind of going all over the notes here with this. I did send you this one. There, you've already got it. Perfect. So yeah, and he tweeted at Paul Atkins, Hester Pierce from the SEC, who she figures to still be there. And then I'm not sure. Oh, I'm not sure who the last guy is. He's probably affiliated with the SEC in some way. He said, please also include the SEC's case against Richard Hart, Schuler, in your upcoming review. It was clear that the court had no idea. Yeah, who? Oh, okay.
He's
He was
a SEC commissioner since 22.
Mark Ueda.
Mark Ueda.
35 followers. I guess he doesn't use Twitter. Okay. Got to get out there, Mark. Get your following up. It was clear that the court had no idea why the SEC was trying to allege fraud, so it would make sense for the SEC to question the validity of its own claims. Thanks in advance. The entire transcript of the hearing is pinned at Pulse Chain FDN. But yeah, there is the headline. Trump's SEC may freeze litigation that does not involve allegations of fraud. So could the SEC be looking at I don't want to say bigger fish to fry? This is a personal lawsuit against RH, but you've got a Coinbase one out there. I can't keep track of them anymore because, as you know, I mean, they just throw them at everybody. There was a Uniswap one at one point. They just sued Elon Musk for some shit.
Yeah.
Despite Richard Hart heeding warning to Elon, I saw a couple of years ago when this deal went through. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about this on an overall level of the reformation of the SEC and whether some of these will get frozen. But specifically, obviously, we want to know how it could affect the Richard Hart case. There's just so many things that are happening all right now. I mean, we figure to get her rolling shortly. We've got 5 days until there's a new SEC. Trump hearing this news today. Attack it from any angle that you want to, Ewok, because I want to hear your thoughts on overall this news that this could be coming, then how it could affect us and how that could affect our judges, ruling here.
Well, I think the main goal is that their aim is to become more efficient. right? The Doge thing with the Department of Government Efficiency. This stuff is a waste of of our tax dollars, essentially. And I think they're still trying to. Obviously, they just threw one at Elon, and if that's not a slap in the face for somebody that's going to be on some of this advisory committees or whatever his official position will be, now they're going after him too. So there's still, I think the main goal of this is to cut down on the inefficient spending, the senseless lawsuits that are out there, and the judge said it herself, right? This shouldn't be fraud. So as long as this can fit into that and hopefully get thrown into the bucket with some of the other ones, but we are going to need to hear, unfortunately, I think we'll need to hear from her first before any of that happens. However, at the same time, I do want the new administration to be in effect when we do hear from that. So, I think that's their goal. I think the goal is to just stop the litigation that is unnecessary, a waste of money. He's already said he wants to be pro crypto. A lot of this stuff is basically just ransom. It's like the mafia taking their cut. So totally unnecessary. And that's my take on it. Anyway, I just think they want to become more efficient and go after the ones like the SBFs and the Celsius and the tokens that actually people lost a lot of money on as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the framing that they've used is this light touch policy on crypto, which Paul Atkins seems to be in favor of as well. Yeah, I just do wonder, like, I know Nuclear Herbs, who, if there's anybody that's the resident expert on attorneys, obviously it's going to be him. But he speculated that Judge Carroll would not purposely be waiting for the 20th for the Trump administration and the new SEC for any reason. Like, the case is there. She witnessed the case. Whatever happened in the courtroom that day is what's going to influence her decision about the motion to dismiss. So that's what he said in the past. But, man, it just, she is a human being also, although, one of integrity, obviously, it seems from hearing everything that happened in the courtroom that day. But with only 5 days to go until these overall changes, and the fact that the SEC could just, this new reformed SEC after this inauguration ticks over, could potentially just say this case does move forward and she dismisses only a small part of it or none of it. It may be moot anyway. It may just get frozen anyway. Right. And at that point, none of us, or a few of us, I think, have really been worried about the SEC in terms of how this ecosystem will price perform, because they just don't really hold that much, even with Gensler in there. They're getting their asses whooped everywhere they look. So, they really don't hold that much weight in terms of affecting anything that negatively. XRP beat them. The only reason their price isn't doing even better than it already is because it's XRP, I think. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I can't imagine she wouldn't be affected by some of this stuff, but I imagine she's also still just going to rule with what she saw in the courtroom that day. We've talked before that I think we could definitely see her dismissing the hex portion of it, at the very least. Right. The fraud arguments are not compelling, really. But should this case move forward either way, other than the fact that we know it's just going to be a summary decision at some point, it's now even more bullish to know that it may just get frozen. We may just have this, and then it maybe ultimately dropped. Who knows later in the year as things go on. So, yeah.
Brizology's question or comment here about he thinks they burned down California to the latest conspiracy theory is that the Olympics are going to be in LA for 2028, and they needed the room to develop the Palisades area.
Okay. It sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, let's burn them down, and that way we can rebuild it and plan for the Olympics that far ahead of time. So,
yeah,
I did want to address Michelle's question before I forget about it too. She asked where to go to for the loans. Liquid Loans is the one for Pulse Chain, and then Power City has it's Flex, I think, for Hex, and I forget what the one for Pulse X is, but Power City has those two. for the loans for those tokens. So I didn't want to miss that question.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Good question, Michelle. Um, and other news kind of ancillary to this SEC stuff. So we're also having big ups to Quinn Emanuel, which is, of course, Richard Hart's attorneys. He's had I don't think they're all 11 are from Quinn Emanuel. If I can't remember if I'm right or wrong about that, but I mean, a number of them are from there. They service obviously Elon Musk as well, which he's eliciting their help probably as we speak. And then the big news just the other day, Eric Trump tweeted, I think I sent you this one, about the Trump administration using Quinn Emanuel as their outside ethics advisor, actually. So we now have, I mean, they literally are like the most feared law firm in the United States. They've won literal awards for that annually. They may be the most feared law firm in the United States. So you've got RH now who's hired these folks. The Trumps are using them and Musk uses them. I mean, doesn't get more bullish sounding than that. So there you go. There's the news from Eric Trump. Proud to announce William Burke, global co-chair of Quinn Emanuel LLP, to serve as the Trump Organization's outside ethics advisor during my father's term as the 47th president of the United States. So, I mean, a huge honor, obviously, for Quinn Emanuel, and just goes to show like how in demand these guys are. And I cannot imagine what Richard's spending on these people. But we heard their litigation in court in the motion to dismiss hearing, and they did a fantastic job battling the SEC. Now, I will say, I don't think you had to be on your 10 out of 10 A+ game to beat the SEC that day, but they were regardless. So,
right.
Yeah, what do you make of this? I mean, just the more and more we hear about these guys, it's pretty badass,
Well, very badass. Welcome to the Billionaires Club, right? I mean, you've got three prolific profile people with Elon, with Trump, now Richard Hart, who's supposed to be a billionaire as well, or rumored to be a billionaire, I should say. These guys are amazing. And you are right. He has 13 lawyers, and I believe 5 of them are from this group, Quinn Emanuel. He's got I think 5 from another group and then 3 from another. Whatever, doesn't matter. There are 2 or 3 firms that are representing him, but these guys are the feared ones. They don't take cases that they're going to lose, and a lot of times, they are feared. Nobody wants to go up against them because they do their homework. And they win. So. Bottom line, and that's why they're so expensive. But either way, Mr. Burke, widely regarded as one of the nation's finest and most respected lawyers. It goes on to tell you all his expertise as well. So if you get a chance, go through and read this. But yeah, these guys are pretty top notch. Puts us in good company.
It definitely does. Yeah, you've got Musk, Trump, Hart, and I'm sure other people obviously employ these guys too, but good company to be in for sure. Pretty amazing. So all bullish on the Western Front here. I mean, we basically, in terms of the SEC case, we don't know what Judge Carroll's decision is going to be. But again, remember, I mean, we've already said it now, but it is a motion to dismiss hearing. It wasn't the final hearing to get a judgment or anything like that. So, almost any news that comes out of this isn't going to be anything that is that much of a negative impact or anything at this point. So good things coming. Gary Gensler will be out of office very soon. Of course, he had his parting shot filing some bullshit suit against Elon Musk. So we'll see how that goes. But could be maybe thrown out or paused relatively quickly. It sounds like whenever Paul Atkins kicks Gary's ass out of there. So should be good. Another piece of cool crypto kind of legislative stuff. This is the cool thing with Trump taking over is we're seeing all of this bullish stuff in terms of crypto regulation, the U.S., rather than, letting just flat out idiots like Elizabeth Warren pontificate on crypto and literally trying to run innovation out of this country so they can keep their own riches by the schemes that they're using behind closed doors. To have an administration now that's open to it, wants to be a burgeoning part of the industry and not drive it to other countries is just awesome. And we saw today that longtime crypto supporter Tom Emmer from Minnesota, he was the Republican majority whip, was just named the vice chair of the subcommittee on digital assets, financial technology, and AI. There you go. He announced it on Twitter himself. I'm honored to have been selected as that title, with President Trump in the White House and Gary Gensler confined to the waste bin of Washington. He is not a fan of that guy. We have an excellent we have an excellent opportunity to ensure that the future of digital assets is guided by Americans with American values. I look forward to working with Chairman Rep. French Hill, Chairman Rep. Brian Steele, and the rest of our colleagues to foster an environment where digital asset innovation can thrive. So this is another huge piece of news. This guy's really him. I mean, I remember from Ohio, Warren Davidson, they both filed something to reform the SEC a while ago, which of course never really went anywhere, but Gensler's gone now. So that's awesome. And, we've got Hester Pierce in there. That does seem to be somebody that is more aligned with the Atkins type of thinking than the Gensler, rule with an iron fist and try to ruin everybody's lives type, method. So, yeah, what do you make of this? Yet another announcement with this Trump administration, with Tom Emmer being elected to this position. I mean, just continues to be good stuff rolling in here.
Yeah, just one after another. I mean, the hits for the SEC keep coming. Punches in the gut and body shots, it left and right. So I couldn't be more pleased with this stuff. Like I said, that's one of the reasons why I think we really want to wait for a decision after inauguration, after this stuff takes effect and these people get into their, positions that they've been nominated for and selected for. There are many of them out there. Now, the one thing that I had noticed somewhere, and it said something that they were talking about cryptos that were founded in America could get some tax breaks, was one of the ideas, right? But then we go back to that, well, where does the blockchain live? How do you, so I don't know that anyway, it was just one of the random thoughts that just jumped into my head there, is how are they going to do that or enforce that or say where it was created or, anyway, yeah. I'm pleased with Tom Emmer. He's been, there for a while. I wasn't so sure about him because he was one of the few that were also taking payments from the side that we had heard about. There was some shady stuff going on, but overall, he has been a force on the side of good, I think, as far as crypto is concerned anyway.
Generally with politicians, yeah, you want to heed that a little bit. We've talked before about things in Congress being like, were they perhaps performative just to, give lip service to people like us? You do wonder that sometimes. And I think it's best to look at things that way. Briz brought up something cool. I just DM'd it to you, Ewok, if you want to show the video. If anybody that is new to this and, getting into crypto this year, which you will be doing, we're going to have people, because many of us did it last cycle. Many people bought into this market in August, September, to October of 2021, and it was their first exposure to crypto. We're going to be having that this year. So for anybody that isn't aware of Tom Emmer, Briz did post a cool video. It's kind of an Emmer, one of his highlight reels. I just DM'd it to you, Ewok, if we want to play that video real quick and get a little taste of what Tom Emmer dished out to guys like Gensler in Congress. If you want to go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I want to
transactions.
Here we go. I want to hang on. Shit. I'm trying to get my
screen
out. Well, no, my output correct.
Oh, okay. But Emmer's never been a stranger to this. And it wasn't him. It was the I can't remember his name. The bow tie guy. Somebody can probably help me out in the chat. But the other bow tie congressman that was the infamous one where he lit up Gensler, where Gensler did the finger shaking because he couldn't speak. He was so nervous. Another epic time as well. So if you can't get it, it's okay.
I think I got it here.
Okay. All right.
Let me know.
Not hearing it yet. There you go.
On the decentralized financial technology, quote, not only removes the so-called middlemen from these transactions, but it also allows users to interact through a variety of methods in an easy and efficient manner, end quote. The court also said underwriters like the ones at banks where you work, sir, are, quote, precisely the types of individual roles that decentralized exchanges were designed to eliminate, end quote. Mr. Gensler, can you assure this committee that your style of regulation by harassment towards digital asset innovation is to the benefit of every American and not driven by your desires to protect industry incumbents?
This is a field that's rife with fraud and manipulation, and I'm looking out for the American investors who've been hurt by the crypto.
Yeah. I'll reclaim my time. Mr. Gensler, despite your years of rhetoric, like today, I'm convinced you are not an impartial regulator. Instead, it's clear that you are working to consolidate your own power, even though it means crushing opportunities for everyday Americans and, frankly, the financial future of this country. Even the federal courts are highlighting the damage you, sir, are doing to our constituents, and they're telling you that you don't have the legal authority to accomplish your goal of squashing competition in the financial markets. Congress has been telling you that too. Now, Mr. Gensler, I believe our great financial system is the definition of freedom in this country. And congressional policies must provide room for the traditional financial system to evolve alongside the disruptive digital asset ecosystem. That said, it cannot be understated that a common theme throughout your career, sir, is your relentless loyalty to the largest financial institutions at the clear expense of innovation, competition, and everyday Americans. I yield back.
There you go. Mic drop
Good
moment.
stuff.
Yeah, and that's not the only time. I mean, Emmer has grilled him many times. So that's an example of what you're getting with this guy being elected to that position. So very cool. I just it's been such a horrible last few years with Gensler and the Biden administration and everything. Just to see this overhaul, what the hell are we going to see in this market this year? It's just, we haven't had this kind of environment in such a long time, it feels like. And even, actually, I should say ever. Because it's not as if Trump's first administration, Bitcoin, we've seen like Richard Hart in response to Trump in a tweet a few years ago. I think it was 2017 or something when it was like 11K. Trump said what the current some Democrats talking points are on Bitcoin. Trump was saying it back then about, it's used for drugs and Silk Road and all this shit. So, I mean, we've never had this kind of environment. And of course, all the ETFs and everything that are happening right now. It's going to be fascinating. I'm just excited to watch. I mean, you figure that we are still going to get diminished returns with Bitcoin just because that's how things work. But we've never seen this kind of administration with crypto. So,
right.
Man.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And I think it couldn't get any more bullish for anyone in crypto, no matter what. We're all on the same side here. A lot of people seem to forget that no matter which coin you're pushing or which founders arguing with who or whatever, they all tend to forget that we're on the same side for the most part. We all want the same thing. So
yeah even Charles Hoskinson, I think, wants the same things as us. So just don't comment on any of his posts or you might get blocked if you mention text or something like that,
or if you have it in your name, even for that matter.
Right. Going to get blocked. That's how much he doesn't care and how irrelevant we are. So great news from Emmer there. Let's turn our attention to this. This is freaking fantastic. I don't think we can say enough about what this guy's trying to do for the Pulse Chain ecosystem right now, and my hat's off to him. I enjoy his content. I read everything that he tweets about, and I don't know if I sent you this tweet, but Decentralize Me, who is a guy who has been fantastic on the potential pegging of PDI. He's had some great videos about it, breaking it all down on YouTube over the months. He hasn't done too many recently, but he's uncovered a lot of things. It's so interesting how that journey has gone with PDI from being something that, B Roots and Ian talked about a year and a half ago or whatever, and it didn't seem like many others. And then slowly but surely, it's so funny how, and we take ownership of it. I mean, I don't think I was ever like critical. I really don't think you were that critical either, Ewok, but people like to pretend you were. But the people that laughed at those guys early on in the PDI days, that now I'd say the overwhelming majority of people in this ecosystem that's even aware of the potential PDI thing is in agreement that something is going on there, obviously. If not, something's definitely going on there. Anyway, that's not really even the purpose of this, but Decentralize Me on Twitter has been doing all kinds of stuff covering PDI. Most importantly right now, though, he just started a campaign for a fund to raise money for a Pulse Chain digital marketing program. This is essentially to combat a lot of these bullshit FUD things that we're seeing just come out of nowhere. And I hate to use like the Andrew Tate Matrix thing, but that's really what it is. I mean, like the Matrix coming after Richard Hart because of some of the things that he has created. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about the SEC shakedowns and things like that. But now we've even got Interpol putting him on a red notice for offenses that no other standard would warrant a red pill notice. If you look at some of the other people that have a red pill, whatever I'm trying to say, red Interpol notice. So, it is just left and right. Oh, and I forgot this one. Last week we had the bullshit watches article come out about these articles on these rinky-dink, crypto sites that no one reads, that come out with broken English and stuff, with pictures that are from Shutterstock pretending that it's Richard Hart's watches. Like my son literally could have made this shit. I'm not exaggerating. He literally could have.
Right.
Matter of fact, I might have to have a talk with him. But so anyway, if they're going to throw this tabloid bullshit out there to FUD an ecosystem and FUD a guy like Richard Hart, why not combat that by meeting every single one of their articles with a positive article about Pulse Chain, since what they're doing is really just stuff they're pulling out of their ass anyway. So Decentralize Me comes up with this plan. He asked the God Whale for some help, gets over $100,000, and there's a little above that, I think, sitting in that fund right now. On the very first day, he got multiple donations of over 50K. Wants to be able to publish counter-positive articles to the fake FUD shit, like I mentioned. And people like Charles Hoskinson, for example, and maybe he's just doing this because of where Cardano's at right now, and maybe there's not a lot going on with it. But if somebody like him that I felt was smart before some of the actions of last week, if he takes those articles that seriously and as gospel, then it might be time to actually combat this stuff to improve some of the SEO. I heard Crypto Coffee talking about this, the SEO around Pulse Chain, Richard Hart, whatever. If you type that stuff in, you're going to get these, I don't even think it's Cointelegraph. It's just like these bullshit sites I've never even heard of. They're writing these articles literally with Shutterstock pictures of watches. So I think this is fantastic. I think Decentralize Me is a guy that can be trusted. There's lots of things that happen in crypto where people get on here and say, hey, I trust, 0x Steph or whoever it may be, and things don't seem to go that way. But I'm a huge fan of this. He has Nerd Girl working with him to network with different publishers and things like that. So I don't know. I think this is awesome. What do you make of this?
Yeah, fantastic. Here's my only beef, I guess, with the whole thing. They have over $100,000. All right, let's get some stuff done. Right. I know they were asking the other day for even more. My feeling is, let's use what we have and start to let's get some results. Let's see something that's happening, right? Nerd Girl is a very good bridge to other communities. She always has been totally neutral on a lot of fronts. She's very involved with this ecosystem, but as well as others. So, she's always that building the bridge type person. She used to have a show called Building Bridges. So yeah, that's great. But before we ask for more money, let's get something done. I feel like could happen. That was my only beef with raising a little over 100,000 and saying, all right, now let's double it. All right, well, let's get some, results here first. And I do agree with Coffee. I think you start with the SEO stuff. I think when you start talking about these coins and people go and do their own research, you're right. Those are the first things that are going to come up. Just articles that have been pushed through the ether with really nothing to back it up. And for those people like Nuclear Herbs that have gone and done the groundwork and shown that there's really no public records anywhere of any of this stuff so far that we've found, it seems to be all hearsay. at this point. So, you know, yeah, I mean, that was just, I'm a fan of it. Let's put it to good work. Let's, you know, clean up the internet a little bit so that when people do their research, they find some good stuff anyway. Or at least in the middle, but not one-sided like it is right now. But you know, again, I hope we can spend some of that on marketing as well. You know, I still think that postcard idea was a good thing. Richard has always said it. He is a master marketer. And people think postcards are a terrible idea, but you know, you can take care of a lot of addresses in a very wealthy zip code, and get it out there. People need that recognition, the logo recognition, the branding, whatever it is. They need to see it a couple times before it clicks and be like, oh yeah, I heard about that, or I got something in the mail about that, or whatever it is. You know, anything that is left over once, you know, obviously we'll never clean up the internet from all the bad stuff that was written. We've been dealing with it for 5 years now. But there are campaigns out there that can kind of squish a lot of the issues. So yeah, that was my only beef with the whole thing, was let's get something done before we ask for more money.
Well, to answer to that a little bit, I did just DM you. So Decentralize Me did tweet an update today. Now, I don't know that it's like the kind of results that you're talking quite yet, but he is so far consistently updating on what's going on with it. And it's cool that, like we said, Nerd Girl's involved as well. So it isn't just like one person that's in the community that you're kind of looking after. But if you want to bring this up, he makes some good updates here. Yeah, I figured you would like that other thing I sent you. Yeah, let's see here. So I'll start reading. I'm sure you're going to have it here in a second.
I got it right.
Okay.
Right now.
So Decentralize Me says, Pulse Chain Marketing Update. I've created an RFP and have meetings with 8 different agencies this week to ensure we get the best deal. Can we substantiate that? No, but I don't think he's lying necessarily. The agencies are being tasked to create a bid with 2 plans, each with differing weights of budget allocation. Nerd Girl and I will assess the agencies and select which goes through for the community to vote on based on the responses in our conversations with them. The community will have the chance to vote on the plan they like the most over a 3-day period. Then we'll sign and go live ASAP. We've kept 10 to 12K back as contingency budget to be used either with the agency or on freelance work. We've kept the streams open for the agencies to showcase what they believe in or is the best strategy and why. That sounds like a really good plan. And I like that he's done this, you know, just like he's done with the proposals to peg PDI for the hat to vote on, whether it's collateralized by Pulse or Hex or PulseX or whatever. I like this strategy of doing, you know, things like this to vote on. And again, it's nice that it's not a single point of failure with just Decentralize Me, and then Nerd Girl is involved as well. So the more that we get receipts of what this work is that's being done, obviously, you know, it's not like we have this negative history with either one of these folks. It's just that we have massive negative history with a whole bunch of other people. So you just want to know what is going on. So I like this. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, so you know, right here, the budget and timeline, $110,000, 6-month campaign, spending $18,333 per month. You know, it seems expensive, but I guess to get professionals out there to do the things you need them to do, I'm sure it all adds up. So, yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. And again, I want to see some progress anyway. This is progress. So it's exactly what I asked for 5 minutes ago. So, you know, coffee did bring up the one thing is that we need what did he call it? A reputation manager or something like that. Did you hear him talking about that?
I think I heard him talking. I don't know if I heard that part though.
Well, just something to fix the reputation of Richard Hart. And some of these things I don't want people to overstep. You know, Richard did things for a reason. Some people took it the wrong way, and I don't know that we need to pay to fix any of that, and I don't think we should.
Well, keep in mind, somebody somebody on their own volition wanted to send a payment. So I understand it. I mean, he's asking for people if they would like. I mean, he's not making anybody do it. He's saying if you would like to do this, and somebody was willing to do it. I'm with you. Like, let's at least give this a trial run, see where it goes, see what kind of impact it has. I do think that there's validity to the fact that people don't really read that shit too often. But here's the thing with RH though, most of crypto, because they're just not educated on it and are investing in things that actually aren't even real crypto and don't even know what they're doing, look at Richard Hart as a scammer because they don't look into anything like that. So just to get that kind of press out there as well, could be worthwhile. I do think that Crypto 7 here does bring up an interesting point that, you know, price action is really what we need more than marketing. I mean, I do agree with that. I mean, seeing those go up everything else will be a moot point. But that said, you know, when times are tough and all the pieces of news that are come out are these clear hit pieces. I mean, it's not even if it was actually like truthful things that are being done, whatever, but it's clear bullshit hit pieces. And, you know, I think if there's people out there that are willing to throw their own shekels at it to try to help combat it, why not let them do that? You know, it's not like Decentralized Me's out here begging, you know, like a homeless person or something. I mean, he asked the God whale and then somebody with some money sent him some money. So, you know.
No, I agree. And I mean, to what you just had up there from 7, I like the second part of that too, is we do have an army of free PR. So, you know, why not take some people that may have some sort of marketing background and say, hey, do you want to volunteer some time? Like, you know, you're part of the community as well. We've got a ton of hexicans, pulsicans, whatever, people from this community. Let's put some of them to work that have the, you know, the background and the experience in some of this stuff, because it is expensive. 18 grand a month is pretty pricey. So, you know, I think we can start at home here and you know, I'm not saying collect resumes because people don't like to dox themselves too much. But I'm sure there are people with some marketing experience that could jump in here and help and probably do just as good of a job. And that way we know it's homegrown, organic, things like that.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
And further down in that Decentralized Me post, he does say that during the 3-day voting period, anyone who donated to the fund who wishes to get their contribution returned for whatever reason can DM him, prove their wallet matches the funds, and then he'll send it back. So says that in there too. So, you know, it's one of those things. Obviously, everybody's going to be super skeptical of anything like that in crypto, but this isn't quite like somebody creating a token and asking you to do this or anything. I mean, it's, you know, people know that they're putting their money in before they're seeing the results with this type of thing.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And I get that. And but what I'm saying is
you're attacking the whole idea.
No,
you're attacking the idea. You're
not at all. Listen, I'm saying we could make these funds go further, and have a more of a reach if we can kind of cut back on it. Like, I don't have a problem with this at all. I don't at all. I do want to see some results, but I think we should have probably started at home a little bit first. That was my point.
I get you. I get where you're coming from. Well, either way, I think it's a net positive. We'll continue to kind of see where it goes and stuff like that. Yeah. But so many bullish things are kind of rolling in that who knows? I mean, even if this does get done, maybe it will be a blip on the radar of all the bullish things. You know,
we might not even need it.
Right. Exactly. So kudos to them though for putting this effort in there, and I appreciate that. So yeah. Transitioning, I mean, this is kind of within the same vein because it was also something that was from Decentralized Me, but on to the actual PDI stuff, like I was alluding to earlier. So we did have a poll out there once again for people within the community to vote on, where the hat wallet that presumably is somehow tied to Richard Hart, of course, to have this specific poll was for PDI to be collateralized by Pulse, the Pulse token, actually. So I think this was open for like a week or something like that. And obviously the hat wallet voting favorably on this would have been the over the moon, uber bullish confirmation that yes, this wallet, who seems to be a gigantic fan of Pulse Chain, is voting yes on, like, basically substantiating all the beliefs that everybody has always had about PDI. Basically, not that we need that to happen for, I think it's pretty clear at this point, but some people, still don't believe. So whatever. That deadline did come and go without the hat voting on it, and we did see PDI specifically in that Atropa ecosystem kind of go down like 10%. It really wasn't that bad. This does not mean that it's not going to happen or anything. It was like, I don't know what the duration of that poll was. I think it might have only been a week or something like that. But Decentralized Me has talked about going back in and maybe just doing, it could be a number of things. It could be that the hat wallet is not interested in doing this yet. It is still just January, and maybe giving that sentiment to the market he feels is a little bit too early. It could also be that maybe he needs to do a different type of poll. Like Decentralized Me said, what if I made a poll that was voting on collateralizing PDI with all the tokens, like Pulse, Hex, and PulseX all at once, or like a multiple choice type of thing with no time limit on the poll, where it doesn't run out, just let it go until the hat wallet would vote on it, basically. So there's many things that can be done. I don't think the fact that the hat wallet didn't vote affirmatively or in any way, it didn't vote no, it just didn't vote. I don't think it's any kind of negative view of PDI at all. It's just interesting that, like, the bullish and bearish times, during Thanksgiving, if you remember, Ewok, everything going on with PDI was all the rage. Everybody was obsessed with it. I was buying, PRC20 tokens left and right, copies before they nuked 50% because of the Interpol bullshit. There was just all this uber bullishness around the PDI narrative during Thanksgiving. I mean, there was so much going on. And, then the bearish times come in, the other FUD articles come in, all these things, that narrative fades away and people aren't thinking about it anymore. And right now, even though things are bullish a little bit again, we're not hearing people talk about, PDI and the potential pegging and the hyperloop of money coming in the ecosystem and PRC20 copies reaching parity and all these crazy things that people have speculated upon. We're not even really hearing about it much right now. So I'm interested in your thoughts. I know this stuff's a little complicated with like the voting on the poll and stuff like that, but what do you make of just the fact that we didn't get a vote from that big wallet on this? And whether, how it makes you feel as far as like the potential of PDI and where we're at here with PDI?
Good question. This one confuses me a little bit because, just because there wasn't a vote doesn't mean that person's not in favor or not in favor fully of that idea. I was more of the understanding that, when you look at DAI and how it's backed by multiple things, right? It's backed by Bitcoin, Ethereum. I think there's some USDC, USDT. There's multiple things in there that back DAI, and that's always why it's been a little bit more decentralized. That way, there wasn't any one point of failure. Well, I kind of think if we're going to do anything like that with PDI, I think you need to have a similar backing. I think you need to have multiple things, multiple coins that back it. I think, PulseX, incentive, and it's always a dollar amount anyway. Like, you're not saying, well, what if it's very volatile? It wouldn't make any sense to use that as a backing. Well, it's still, again, it's for one DAI or whatever, you would take a third of this or a third of that and a third. So it's the dollar value. It's not the actual, the volatility of it shouldn't matter. So that was my take on why there wasn't a vote. I mean, I've always thought to have multiple assets backing something like that. That way there's not one single point of failure.
Right.
If there ever was something wrong or anything that happened, it wouldn't ruin that as well. So, you want to eliminate points of failure, and by having multiple tokens backing something, I mean, I really think that's the way to do it. So that was my thoughts on it. I don't know about calling him out like that. maybe get his attention another way. I don't know. I mean, it's just maybe that was another thing that why there wasn't a vote. I don't know. There's still some secrecy to it, and I don't think that anybody really wants to be tied to it quite yet.
Right.
That's why nothing has been said, positive or negative. Mind you, I mean, there has been no comments from him at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not sure we want to start tagging him in this stuff yet. But either way, that was my thought. Why there wasn't a vote is because there's more to it than just Pulse being the backer.
I think that is a good point. I do think I alluded to this earlier. I think also maybe the timing of it too, because whether that doesn't mean like, even if it was voted on yes, that doesn't mean it's going to instantly peg. Clearly, that's not what's going to happen. But if you do vote positively on it, that's basically confirmation that this is the plan, this is what's happening, and you're letting everybody that knows about it know this right now in January 2025, when there's still plenty of time. I mean, I know people don't understand that sometimes. They're like, it's 2025 now. Like, what are we doing? We got to be pumping by now and everything. But there is so much that can happen in the rest of the quarters of this year, like literally in that 3-4 month time frame. I mean, especially at the end of the year, like we could be, we talked about this last week. I mean, we could be blowing up going into 2026 still. If not us, somebody else could be. I mean, there are altcoins that are still going to be super bullish even going into 2026. So there is a lot of time and so many things are going to happen this year. I could understand that entity not wanting to signal that to the market yet, quite frankly. I still think it's the plan. I still think it's going to happen. It's just going to be at the speed that it's going to need to be to happen. And we'll slowly see things like that rolled out this year. Not only that, but also just like, if there are other upgrades to Pulse X or other features added and all these other pools that we're speculating on Pulse X having. I just think we're going to see exponential growth this year regardless,
Well, and remember the whole rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing, right? You don't want people to have to inject a bunch of money to make the peg happen. Like that's not really the goal. And the one thing is that we know Richard's always been pretty good on his timing of things, except calling a release date. But other than that, for the most part, he's been pretty spot on with timing of things and releasing things. So yeah, I mean, potential that there's many reasons why this didn't get voted on.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's any reason to be upset. And really, there wasn't anywhere near the sell-off that people thought they were going to be. I saw Too Spooky on Twitter saying, like, you guys are idiots. This is never, whatever he said. This is never going to happen. You're going to see P-Dye nuke after this. I mean, he's playing a role. That's just kind of what he does, I think. I think this is 100% going to happen eventually, and we'll just have to see the way it comes together, which none of us know at this point. So, yeah. We'll keep monitoring on it. But, it's not even something that you have to depend on. I mean, I think we're going to, have plenty bullish things to happen for this ecosystem in this bull market, but that would just make it all the more bullish, I believe. So, yeah. So I think that wraps that up. I'm trying to see. I mean, we have a couple kind of small stories we could get to here to round off the show. Is there one that you prefer to get to or anything, you walk?
Let's talk about this petition thing.
Okay, that's what I was kind of thinking too. Yeah. So it was Fasting God on Twitter. So going back to the FUD bullshit articles and stuff like that and the Interpol thing. So Fasting God started a petition to Europe about Finland and their kind of gross overreach of using a red notice with Interpol for alleged crimes that are nowhere near the level of what you do typically see on a Interpol red notice. Just their gross overreach against Richard. I think I did send you that one, right? You have it there. Yeah.
I think
so this
pulled up.
This one's a little bit more lengthy, so I'll try to paraphrase. But Fasting God says, I've officially submitted a petition using the European Parliament to investigate the Finnish state's alleged unjust actions against Richard Hart. If the petition is accepted, it will be deemed admissible by the Committee on Petitions, which will then determine the appropriate course of action under Article 227 of the Parliament's Rules of Procedure. Once deemed admissible, any European citizen or resident of the EU will have the opportunity to sign and support the petition. As a European citizen, I believe it's my responsibility to address injustices occurring with a fellow member state, especially when these actions directly impact not only my personal investments, but also those of other European international investors. The petition is Stop Unfair Practices, a call to investigate Finland's actions against Richard Schuler, call for transparency, fairness, and oversight in the case of Richard Schuler and its broader implications for investor rights and market integrity. To the honorable members of the European Parliament, how long are we looking here? I just want to get a gauge of how long this is before I read the whole thing. All right. We, the undersigned, hereby petition the European Parliament to investigate and address the procedural and ethical concerns surrounding the Finnish government's handling of the case against Richard Hart, which has led to significant repercussions for the cryptocurrency community, investors, and the principle of justice itself. Then he gives a background of the case that I'm not going to read the entirety of, just the lack of transparency by the Finnish leaders, blah, blah, blah. Broader implications. This case highlights critical issues that extend beyond an individual's legal challenges. It sets a concerning precedent for how governments and legal authorities may act without accountability, potentially harming markets, investors, and public trust and judicial fairness. It's basically lawfare. Crypto Coffee was using that term on a video today. I mean, it's just what they've done to Donald Trump, what they're doing to Elon Musk. Like, you make a good product, you make a lot of money, people want to shake you down by making shit up about you. Then he says, call to action. We respectfully request that the European Parliament take the following actions: investigate the Finnish authorities' conduct an independent review of the procedural and ethical practices employed in the Richard Schuler case. This review should examine whether due process has been followed and whether the use of media and international most wanted lists is appropriate. Establish guidelines for ethical practices, recommend EU-wide standards for how member states handle high-profile cases, ensuring that transparency, fairness, and the presumption of innocence are upheld, protect market integrity and investor rights, investigate the broader economic impact of the case on investors in the cryptocurrency market, recommend measures to safeguard the markets from undue harm caused by state actions, ensure oversight of Interpol and Europol listings, review the criteria for inclusion and international wanted list to prevent misuse or overreach that could unfairly harm individuals, and regulations. Conclusion: this petition is not a defense of any wrongdoing, but a call for fairness, transparency, and accountability. The European Parliament must ensure that justice is administered without bias, disproportionate actions, or collateral harm to investors and markets. We urge you to act promptly to address the pressing matter. I mean, this is awesome. I don't know what kind of legs it will get in getting the petition available for folks to sign. But I think it's great.
Yeah. I don't know much about how Parliament. I don't know much about their system. Just because I've never dealt with it. Right. The one thing that concerns me is this going to bring attention that it doesn't need? I know it's already getting some. However, if there's no public record of it, is this? I just don't want it to do more harm than good. I don't want people jumping on the bandwagon that hadn't heard about this because of this. So that's my only fear, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think it's terrific that somebody's at least standing up to it. I don't know where it will necessarily go, but I think one thing is clear, and that's that Finland, which is, obviously nothing against the Finnish people or anything that live there. I mean, we have plenty of great people here in America and have had, horrible leadership. So, I mean, we understand that happens, but Finland is obviously overreaching. They're not a large country or anything. There was a guy that made a lot of money that lived in their country for a period of time that they're trying to shake down. I mean, it's basically like the SEC, where in their case, a bunch of unelected officials that just want to take money from somebody that actually innovated something. And that's what Finland's doing too. So Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool effort. I don't know where it'll necessarily go, but I mean, here's the thing. To me, it reminds me of the amicus briefs and stuff that we file,
Right.
just to
Right.
see, yeah, people stand up like this to make the noise, even if it ultimately gets nowhere or squashed or whatever. You're not seeing this in most crypto communities. I mean, you're just not going to see that. And I think the fact that there are people out here making these efforts when they see unjust things like this is a huge sign. And if nothing else, and if it doesn't get anything done and, you know, nothing even comes of the Finland thing anyway, this at the very least is an indicator of how bullish everybody should be on this ecosystem. The fact that somebody's going to work to do something like this and it's got as many impressions and likes in it that it does. I know that's not like the purpose of why this was written, but that should be an indicator to people like, I might want to be involved in this ecosystem if these people care this much, you know?
Yep. So Victor asked him, are we encouraged to, or are European citizens encouraged? What can we do to help it succeed? Can't sign it just yet. They need to approve it first. Direct democracy should, never mind. So yeah, again, it's a petition. It's not anything more than that. And, you know, like you said, you put it in like with the amicus briefs, and all it can do is, I guess, help. Hopefully I don't want anybody going out of their lane, you know, essentially, which can come back to cause more harm than good. I just hope people are thinking this stuff through when approaching Parliament and approaching some of these things. That's my only fear. I think Richard's got it under control. I just don't want anybody causing more harm than what they realize. They meant well, but you know, sometimes you're better to stay in your lane and mind your own business. If somebody's got things taken care of and they say they're handling things, I don't know. That's my only concern. Again,
I don't think it's anything to be concerned over. Like, I don't think he's overstepping bounds or anything here. I mean, it's just to have a petition signed to show that people are out here caring about it and witnessing what Finland is doing, because Finland is not a significant country. You know what I mean? So to challenge Finland is kind of like, more worthwhile than challenging, I would say, like Russia or something.
Sure.
You know, so.
I just didn't want any countries to, you know, so he lived in Finland. Maybe he moved to somewhere else and they get a bright idea of, oh, well, he lived here too and didn't pay us any taxes. Let's go after him as well.
I think the point is, I mean, I don't know this, obviously, and it could be totally wrong, but I think the point is that reading between the lines, I think Richard's maybe gone to a place where none of that stuff is affecting him. I don't think the Interpol stuff he may not be in that jurisdiction anymore. So
that would be my guess. That would be my guess too. So let's hope. He says he's safe. He says he's bulletproof. We got to trust the man and trust the system. So
yep, he's got his bulletproof vest on, so that is good. And yeah, I like this news. It's cool that somebody's out there doing it. If, like I said, if nothing else, it just shows the kind of stuff this community does. That's just awesome that we've seen over time. So
yep.
I guess pretty much going to wrap us up. I mean, this has just been a freaking, you know, unbelievably bullish day amidst a bullish week. I know the last few weeks have been very, very rough, but this is the thing in crypto. I mean, summing it up again, these prices can turn on a dime. The narrative can turn on a dime. I know it doesn't seem like it and things seem horrible, but things can just change in an instant. And if you haven't been DCAing and it starts to get away from you, you're really going to be kicking yourself in the ass. Not telling anybody what to do, but, you know, I know for my sake and for Ewok's sake, I mean, we have been hardcore DCAing into these assets since May of what? Well, I mean, obviously Hex since 2019, 2020, whatever, but for Pulse Chain and everything since it launched May of 23. So we're still here. We're not going anywhere.
Almost 2 full years we've been DCAing more and more. I mean, I sacrificed, but still putting more and more in. So Bitcoin just fell below 100 grand again. I think the candle closed green for yesterday, but it did drop again.
Bear market.
Look out. Everybody might as well sell now.
Falling knife. Sell. Well, this has been a great chat tonight. Crypto7, thanks for being here. DGen Moonboy, Pulse Hex, I just answered your question there in chat. KD, Michelle earlier with a good question. We had Johnny Chaos in here earlier. Briz obviously was here as well. Acid Thunder, RH Max was in the house. Welcome into him. Yeah, a lot of great people here tonight. So appreciate all of you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be here again next week. And hey, we may have some ultra mega bullish or at least news next week. So we will see. I mean, it's not going to be much longer till we hear something about this SEC case. By the time we talk to you next week, Trump will be the president of the United States of America. And yeah, all systems go. Things are looking good right now. So any final thoughts, Ewok?
No, just keep your head down. Keep DCing. It's not too late. Things haven't happened yet. Once some of this news breaks and we do get some positive results, look for some pretty quick moves. I think you may even see some people front running it. Maybe what we're seeing a little bit now. Just keep your head down and stay positive. That's all we can do.
Yep, we will be back next week. So thank you to all of you again. And for Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.
See y'all.